Ever wondered how cloud computers actually get their persistent memory, like
Yeah.
their own hard drives for storing all that important data? Today, we're taking a deep dive into Azure Disks for virtual machines. Our mission is really to boil down the key info from your sources, give you a shortcut to understanding Azure's durable storage, perfect if you're prepping for a meeting or maybe you're just curious.
Yeah, exactly. So at its core, Azure Disks provide what we call persistent block storage for VMs.
Mm.
Think of it like a dedicated, high-performance virtual hard drive. It reliably stores your data even if the VM restarts, which is crucial. And this tech really came about to solve some real limitations we used to have with traditional VM storage, things like fist capacity and really complex manual management.
Okay, so before Azure Disks were common, what were those main headaches? What problems were people running into with VM storage back then?
Well, it's actually fascinating how they tackle both cost and performance. Before, it was often a tricky trade-off. Now you've got standard disks that includes both HDD and the standard SSD options. They offer really cost-effective storage for, let's say, moderate needs, good for dev test or maybe web servers. But then, for the really demanding stuff, those I/O-intensive workloads like big databases, you've got premium disks. These are premium SSDs. And they deliver, incredible speed. We're talking up to 160,000 IOPS.
Wow, IOPS being input-output operations per second?
Exactly. Basically, how many reads and writes the disk handles each second. So yeah, these premium disks directly solve those performance bottlenecks and frankly, the high costs associated with getting that kind of speed before.
Right, so we've got the different performance levels sorted, but there's another really key choice, isn't there? It seems to boil down to how much control you want versus convenience. That's the managed versus unmanaged disks distinction, right?
That's it, yeah. And if you connect this to the sort of bigger picture, managed disks are essentially Azure managed block storage. They massively simplified deployment, scaling, backups too, because they have high availability built right in.
Mm.
Azure handles the complexity underneath.
Okay, so Azure takes care of replication, redundancy, all that.
Precisely. Whereas unmanaged disks, they store data in storage accounts that you manage directly. Now, this does give you more granular manual control, but, well, it means you're on the hook for the configuration, managing those accounts, making sure it's redundant yourself.
Hmm. So why would anyone choose that manual control today? It seems like managed offers so much more simplicity.
That's a great question. And honestly, for most people now, managed is the way to go. Unmanaged is typically reserved for very specific legacy setups, maybe, or some really niche scenarios where you absolutely need that direct low-level access to the storage account for a particular reason. But it's less common now.
Got it. So managed disks give you the easy route, the automated safety nets, like you mentioned, backups, seamless integration with Azure Backup, I assume?
It's exactly, yeah, integrates smoothly. With unmanaged, you're basically being your own cloud storage admin for that disk.
Okay. So beyond just managed versus unmanaged, what other features should people know about?
Well, disk bursting is a really important one, available for both standard SSD and premium SSD. This lets the disk handle temporary performance spikes. So it gives you extra IOPS, extra throughput, maybe during a busy period like a big reporting run without having to permanently provision for that peak.
Ah, so like a temporary boost.
Exactly. And both types, managed and unmanaged, they integrate with Azure Resource Manager, for unified management across your Azure stuff.
Mhm.
They also work with Azure Active Directory for security, identity, access control, super important, and Azure Monitor for tracking performance, setting up alerts, all that diagnostic capability.
Okay, so bringing this all together, what does this mean for you, the listener, in practical terms? How should you make these choices day to day?
Right. So for most situations, especially if you're starting out, you should almost always lean towards managed disks. The simplicity and the automatic redundancy are huge benefits. In terms of types, use standard HDD only when cost is the absolute primary driver and performance isn't critical, maybe some low-use test environments. Standard SSD is really the sweet spot for balanced workloads. Think typical web servers, line of business apps, good price performance, and then absolutely go for premium SSD for anything high performance. Your SQL servers, SAP systems, any demanding database workload, that's where they shine.
You mentioned a pro tip.
Oh yeah, use tags, seriously. Tag your disks with things like environment prod or project, Zeta, or cost center 123.
Mm.
It makes tracking your costs so much easier later on. It really adds clarity to your Azure bill. You'd be surprised.
That's great practical advice. Okay, so we've taken a pretty effective shortcut to getting well informed on Azure Disks. It seems it boils down to choosing the right type for the job, leaning towards simplicity with managed disks generally, and making sure your data is secure and properly managed.
Absolutely. I think the core takeaway is that Azure Disks provide this really flexible, super scalable platform. They solve those old, complex management and performance problems that used to make cloud storage tricky. They make powerful cloud options much more accessible.
So, maybe a final thought for you to chew on. As cloud services keep evolving so quickly, how do you think future advancements might change these disk choices? Could we see maybe AI automatically adjusting storage tiers based on real time use? Or perhaps even more sophisticated bursting capabilities? It's definitely something interesting to think about.